Hey YouTubers, Rick Bruce here. So I wanted to show you that catching reptilians really isn't too hard. It's some people want to go crazy and get the video card and record all that, and I actually encourage that if somebody wants to try that. But one thing Frequency Fence told us is that the reptilians might be hiding behind the codecs, so that might be one of the problems with trying to record it digitally through the signal, rather than the rather crude method of just taking a video camera and pointing it at your TV. But as you know, I've been able to get some pretty amazing stuff, and so it really isn't that hard, and I just wanted to show you real quick how I do it. So basically, I just take a little video camera like this. Okay, this cost me 150 bucks at Fry's. It's the Samsung HMX QF20, and it's got the Wi-Fi. See, that's so the reptilians can watch me 24/7. But anyway, and just a little tripod like this, and you see how easy it is. Just a little tripod like this, and just stick it on my table like that, point it at the screen, and what I do also is I hit the presettings of like rainy day for the type of lighting, and then I leave the focus on auto, but sometimes I'll turn it on manual, like if I just want to hold at a fixed position and then record, because occasionally it will fluctuate. But I like to zoom in on certain spots, and you also get the pixelation as you zoom in. But it's and that, so, your image gets reduced, your image quality. But it also adds a certain element of authenticity that you couldn't get if you were to record it digitally through a video card, because that would be even harder. I mean, really impossible to screw with After Effects or Photoshop. And I know something about Photoshop and bitmap manipulation, which ultimately that's what we're looking at when you're looking at video online, like what you're watching right now. Each and every frame is a bitmap. This way of doing it adds that particular authenticity. Now, if you zoom in too much, it gets a little grainy, but grainy's better than nothing, because if it's too far away, you really can't see what's going on. So you will get that pixelation as you zoom in. And by the way, also, I leave the micro macro on, so that in particular, as you zoom in on the pixels, you see the pixels clearly, and that again makes it harder to screw with. And now I've got the camera, for instance, that I'm shooting this on, a Canon, your basic $250 thing that you can get, over at the electronics store. It has some more advanced features, but it's not as good as this Samsung is at zooming in using the micro function. It really gets those pixels of the screen, which again, like I said, reduces your quality, but it gives it an authenticity, and you can get some shape-shifting that you otherwise can't get. Okay, next I'm going to talk about the program that I use, and here it is right here, Studio from Pinnacle, and this was only 50 bucks, and it's pretty easy to install it and edit the videos, and so that's what I'm going to show you next. Okay, so the next step that I do is you take the raw footage, which you want to shoot at 60 frames per second on your video camera, because this will catch the in-between frames, which is where a lot of this stuff seems to rest, the shape-shifting. And I think your final output is not going to be as good if you do not shoot in 60 frames per second. However, the final output can be less than that. It can be 25 frames per second. It still works out, and I'm not sure exactly why that is, how you still get the effects just as well, but in any case, it does work. I output at 30 frames per second in the 720 by 1280, and that's how I save all my files. Now, what I want to talk about is the steps that I learned to do this that will help you apply proper effects, so that you can scroll through and zoom in and really get the right effects in it without it being too burdensome and long to wait while you apply the effects. So one of the first things I learned to do is you take the raw footage, and what you do is rather than scrubbing through it in your QuickTime or Windows Media Player, what you want to do is bring it into the editor and scrub through it that way. So what I mean by that is you just take this little thing here and you scrub through it like this. And see, in the case of this, I can see it. But notice how it moves very quickly as I move the slider. Well, you can't see it here. I'll turn it over here so you can see it. But in any case, it moves very fast. So what I do is I expand the timeline by doing this. You click on it and hold it and drag it out, and this will give you better controls. So as you'll notice, when I slide this, it moves a lot slower, and you can see frame by frame what's happening. And what you do is when you bring your raw footage in, which as I mentioned before, at the time you may not notice any shape-shifting. You just start shooting stuff and you may not notice anything. You just shoot it and see what happens. You know, shoot some stuff, you know, maybe it's somebody interesting comes on, someone famous, you know, Barack Obama or somebody else, and just start shooting it. And then when you bring it in to the editor, what you do is you scrub through it and then you wait till you see some interesting stuff. Like for instance here, I can see that this female reporter, first of all, there's a suspicious, I don't know if you can see there in the shot, but there's a suspicious, somewhat blurriness to her face as opposed to the reporter over here, Judy. And I think this kind of blurring they do, I don't know whether it's an effect of the shape-shifting or whether that's what the program, you know, the whole news program applies to people that they think are going to shapeshift. So that way it's just slightly blurry so that it discredits the quickly, readily, easily seen shape-shifting, which for instance, as you know, when I shot that Asian reptoids, I mean, that stuff was just really wide out in the open. I mean, you just totally see it. And so I think that the American reptoids are a little bit more competent, and they do things like this. I don't know. It's a mystery. I don't know exactly what it is. But what you do to catch this, so that you catch something that you know paranormal is going on. So you get that raw clip in, and you scrub through it, and you go, okay, look at that. And then you know, as I did with this, I can tell from the teeth, the way they sort of mold into each other, and you start to see that? You see that? It's almost like the tooth bleeds into each other and into the lips. And so by expanding out the timeline like this gives you that kind of control to see it. And that's how you know you got some footage. So the next step that I do, once I know that I got some footage, is let's just say that this is the original clip here. What I'll do is I'll cut out any parts that are non-reptoid footage, and then I'll save it as, you know, clip 1 original. And what I do is, since this original clip started at 60 frames per second, what I want to do is save that edited clip. Just edit out, you know, a bunch of the news and other stuff that is there's no reptoid footage in it. So you'll see a bunch of cuts in the frame line. But what I do is I save it in this 1280 by 720 at 6,000 kilobytes, and this is a standard setting that comes with this Pinnacle program. But in any case, this is important to do because for the next steps it makes editing it much easier, because trying to apply effects to a 60 frames per second clip is very slow, and you may not even be able to get it done. So I save it in this 1280 by 720 at 29, well, it's actually 30 frames per second, but it always shows up 29.97. It has something to do with the way it's supposed to save the file more efficiently. But in any case, you do that. You save the file in a smaller frames per second, which is half. That's 30 frames per second. And then once you do that, you know, you do this, and then you save the file. Let's say you just type in clip 1 original, and you'll do several clips, of it, when you've got your shape shifting footage, and then you save it, and type a name for it, save it, and then what you do then is just delete the original. I'm just gonna delete it here like that, just so you can see, and then I'm gonna undo it. But delete it, and then bring in the clip that you just made of that. And this will give you the ability to apply the filters to it more efficiently, and you'll see that this is much better. It gives you much better control. So the first thing that you do though with your original clip, the next step, going on to the next step, is you take that and then you apply. What I do is I double click it here, and this will give me a options editor. And here, I already have it applied, but what I would do is I would click it to choose speed. And speed is the first thing you want to apply. And the reason you want to do that rather than zoom or anything else that you're going to apply to it, maybe apply contrast or some other stuff if your video editor has that. The reason you want to apply the speed first is because this will also give you greater control over what you're seeing, because this clip probably started out originally like this short, and this is actually one that I've applied the speed to, and you see it's longer now, but this will give you the ability to scrub through it and really see even more of the effects, so that you know where to zoom in. And furthermore, if you try to apply the speed after you've done some effects, or if you've decided to cut a little bit more off of the clip, you can lose some of your footage. So just take your original clip, apply the slow, and then after you've saved that movie as a clip, that slow, then you bring that slow one back into the editor, and then you're ready to really take it apart and do a zoom in, do reverse, all kinds of stuff to your clip. But what I noticed is that it's best to save your slowed down final, your slowed down clip of your original first, and then you can really take it apart, start applying, do little repeats and so forth to get more out of it. Okay, so I'm gonna just do a quick sample here, and let's just say what I want to do is I want to show this sequence right here. When I zoomed in, see, I was a little bit far away there, and again you can notice that kind of blur. But when you zoom in, when I zoomed in the camera, now you'll see that the pixels kind of creating a pattern there, and that unfortunately is a loss of quality. But as you can see, it helps to see her teeth better, and that's where you're seeing the shape shifting here. So let's just say I want to make a little clip of this area, so I'm going to cut it here on the timeline, and then what I delete the one before that, and then let's just say I want to do this right here, and I want to zoom in even more. So I'm just going to take that like that, delete that, and now you're just left with this one area that I want to see. And then I'm going to open up the effects editor, and I've already got the speed applied to it, and now I'm going to apply pan and zoom. And I don't know if you can see it there. You can't really see it, but anyway, there's an option to reduce flickering, and I usually use that. And then I use the slider to scrub in and to zoom in, and also to get it. You want to get it centered on there as much as possible. And I really don't worry too much about whether it's exactly in the center, as long as you can see it pretty good. And like that, maybe even more. Okay, and so now when you play this clip slowly, and by the way, I've already applied the slow, you can see how you can see this strange thing going on. Now see, I'm losing it a little bit, so what I might do in that case, since she's moved like that, and I usually scrub through the clip and just see that in advance. what I can do is as this, just before it moves out of frame, cut the clip, open up the editor again, and I'm automatically in the pan and zoom. What I can do here, since I've cut that and now it's a separate clip, I can raise it up a little. And then I can scrub through the clip and see if I still have it in there. See, I notice it's, yeah, it's okay, but then right here she moves out of frame again. See, I would miss that last part, so I would cut it again and then come down. Okay, another thing that helps to highlight that there's actually something paranormal going on as opposed to paranoia is to actually freeze a frame, and that's you'll notice I do that in my moves a lot. So what I do is I'll find something where you really see that something unusual is happening, like this here with their teeth. Why would there be these connecting globules, whatever they are? It's like the image is melting. These teeth are like melting into each other. It's some sort of, some sort of illusion. And what I'll do is, see, like this, I'll stop it here, and what I'll do is I cut it, and then I choose grab video frame, grab, and then there's two options here, add to movie and save to disk. And if I like the shot, what I'll do is I'll save it to my snapshots, and I'll have a general place where I save all my snapshots. And I'll just put the recorder, and I just give it a quick name. You really don't have to name it, because you can see it from the icon, and that way you can really see it. But then you click the add to movie button, and this will give you a still frame. And what I do is I click the add to movie twice, because what I want to do is still, and then in the next one apply a zoom in on that still shot. So I'll click the animate from start to finish, click the set end, and then zoom in like this. That's done. And then go to the end of that clip, which is zoomed in, take another snapshot, choose grab video frame again, grab, add to movie, and that way you've got a really clear demonstration of the effect. So when I play the sequence back here, this is what it'll look like. See, it stops, then it zooms in, stops again. That way the audience can see it, and then back to the main footage. Okay, and just wanted to show you this, because a lot of times people who don't have this in their experience set, they can't relate to it. They don't know what you're looking at. To them it's, it could just be a blur. It could be, I mean, I think I watched these type of shape-shifting for years and looked right at it and never even noticed it. And so that's why I think it's worth it to make little comments and arrows pointing out. And so you can see what I've done there. See, I say why teeth meld, and I made these little arrows, just little text arrows that I use using the greater than, less than, and dashes, and just pointing out what you're looking at, so that people kind of, you stop it, you say, look, you see, this is unusual, this shouldn't be happening, a normal person wouldn't show this, so this kind of helps to illustrate the idea, it emphasizes it, and so that way people can begin to get it into their minds what's really happening. Because a lot of times a lot of these movies are made and just they kind of go by quick, and they don't slow it down, they don't stop, they don't make any comment. That's why I liked Frequency Fence, because she really stopped and added text to explain what you were looking at. Because I mean, without that explanations that she added, you know, like how stuff was growing, how you could see the tongue flicking in and out. If you were just looking at that and there was no text or anything to explain it, I wouldn't have had as good of an idea of what's happening as I do now. So this is really important. If you're going to make shape-shifting reptilian movies, then you've got to show to the layperson, to the person who's never seen this before, what they're looking at, give an explanation, you know, have some text, you know, point out the unusual thing. You know, give an explanation of it. I mean, Frequency Fence did a better job than I can. You know, I just kind of put some, and I don't like to put too much text. She had a lot of text. I think maybe a little bit less text so that people don't get too bored of it. But if you're interested in this subject, you'll read every word of it carefully and, you know, get what you can learn out of it. But you know, that was just another important thing to do that, because a lot of these movies don't have any explanation, no arrows pointing it out, no highlighting it, you know, no circles around it, you know. A lot of stuff you can't even see it, you can't even notice it unless you have something on the screen marking what it is, pointing it out, showing it, circling it, you know, have a little text with it. So how do you know you're making effective reptilian shape-shifting movies? Because if you're not being buzzed day and night, and if they haven't let you know that you've pissed them off, it means they're not worried that you're changing any minds.
And I remember, I'll swear on a stack of Bibles, I remember a lizard man in that office.